Hi everyone, nubkeks here and welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, we are diving into the second rotation of the Hydra. And much like I did for the first rotation of the Hydra, I'm trying to get you quickly and early. I think it's only been out for about an hour, getting you straight in with an all-epic team that's capable of getting a nice, comfortable one key clear on this new Hydra rotation. We've got different starting heads. The affinities of all the heads have changed. Let's just hit start. Let's dive into the run. Let's see how it goes, and I'll explain what's happening as we go. By the way, if you like this content, I'd love it if you would subscribe. That would be great. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. There's champion guides, shard pulls, news videos, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy it, and you'd be more than welcome to come along. Also worth noting as well that this, of course, we're going to do more Hydra videos this week with some better teams and whatnot. This is your starter team here, but I will, of course, you may not have. It's quite likely you don't have every single one of these 6 champions. Don't worry, I'm going to show you some alternative teams that are built in the same sort of way, but using entirely different champions. And I'll explain what all these champions are here to do, why we're using them, and yeah, some alternative suggestions that you could use, and you can then use the logic of why I'm choosing them as well to make your own teams with whatever champions you do have. So yeah, pretty cool. One of the first things I want you to notice, look at the damage we've done already. What's going on here? This is one relatively subtle change perhaps, but the 2 heads that are gone, Decay and Suffering, are the 2 heads that give 30% AoE damage reduction to the other heads, right? So the 2 heads between them were giving 60% AoE damage reduction. The 2 heads that have come in instead, Blight and Wrath, only give 10%. So that's only 20% total. So that's 40% damage reduction on AoE attacks that isn't there this week. That was there last week. And that means that you are going to, on average, be doing a lot more damage with your AoE hits. AoE damage dealers are a lot more powerful. Let me just click this guy. Also, as you could probably see from the head of Wrath popping off right there, as you can probably see from that, there's also a lot more damage coming in on you, right? So this head of Wrath, he builds up this Vengeance counter. Whenever he's hit, he gets a stack of Vengeance. When he gets to 15 stacks, he triggers Vengeance, which I'll show it when he comes back around, but it gives him 300% increased damage. He does an instant AoE attack, gives himself block debuffs, reflect damage, some other sorts of things. Quite nasty. And also he has a 4-turn cooldown that gives him increased attack for 3 turns and provokes your entire team. So you really need to watch out for him. One of the most dangerous things this rotation, and one of the big things we built this team around, are you absolutely don't want this guy to provoke your entire team, increase his attack. You're all provoked, you trigger Vengeance. This is the provoke. And then he smacks you with his Vengeance move, which is down here. Oh, also, unclick that. You guys hit whatever you want for damage. Yeah, this Vengeance counter, yeah, reflect damage does all this attack. 300% increased damage. It's going to wipe you very quickly. So we're bringing in 2 things in this particular team to help deal with that. Number 1, we are going to be bringing in block buffs to just stop him getting those buffs as much as we possibly can. I think it's going to miss this time. That's okay, though. And we're also going to be bringing in decrease attack, right? We're going to be bringing in a decrease attack debuff. It's one really nice thing, actually, about this particular rotation, in my opinion, which is that because the head of Decay is missing, the cleansing head, it gives you way more control over what's happening in the fight. When you put out debuffs, those debuffs will actually stay on. You now have control. Like, this is actually going to get kind of nasty. This is a little unlucky. Let's see how hard he smacks our team. It's going to be pretty hard. Yeah, he might wipe us here, in fact. This could be bad. Come on, this is my decrease attack guy. We've got Aox. Aox, tell me you've got your decrease attack, dude. Let's see it. There it is. Decrease attack. There it is. Okay, we're saved. Aox has saved the day. Good work, Aox. Good work, Aox. Let's put this to 1 speed so before this run ends. The other head coming in then is Poison. You'll see this happening sort of in slow-mo, which is probably good. Here it goes. Bam, we smack him. He gets his stuff. Smack. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have block buffs on him from Ugo at the time, so he does get those buffs this time. So this is sort of worst case scenario, but that's also okay. We got the crucial decrease attack on, so we are hopefully going to survive. And we got Perfect Veil from Rector giving us some damage reduction. You can see this guy hits hard. He hits hard. Let's turn it back up to speed. This head of Blight, he puts Poison Cloud on all heads. He just tried to do it there. There's the Poison Cloud. This makes every single attack, unless they have HP burn on, be a weak hit. So it's actually kind of a nightmare to deal with. The easiest way to deal with Poison Cloud is you can have AoE HP burns out. And that works more consistently now that you don't have the Head of Decay in the starting lineup to cleanse off the HP burns. You can also just use block buffs. Block buffs just stops it going on. So in my opinion, block buffs becomes extremely good. Not only is it stopping him getting really nasty buffs, but it's stopping that poison cloud as well. It's stopping the Head of Mischief spreading your buffs around. So I'd highly, highly recommend it. This guy then also, his A1 is very nasty. 3 poison debuffs and a leech debuff potentially. And then his A2 on a 3-turn cooldown can explode those poison debuffs if you have leech, which really nukes your team. But you put the two of these things together, as you can see, because I don't have block debuffs on this team, because I can't afford it to be stolen by the Head of Mischief and spread around the enemies. Because of that, you've got tons of damage coming in from the Head of Wrath. He's just hitting you very hard, physically hard. And then this Head of Blight is doing tons of damage with the poisons. So again, in order to deal with Head of Blight, you can bring in cleansers. I actually don't have a cleanser on this particular team. I don't have an epic one built out, so I couldn't, right? And you might be in a similar situation, but you could bring in a cleanser. You can also just bring in lots of healing, which I've done with this team. We've got multiple healers with a little bit of cleansing to try keep us alive. Actually, look at this. We're miles over. I didn't even notice. We're now almost 8 million. Let's go to until someone gets eaten, I guess. We'll see how far we can go. And then I can talk about the team comp here and why I'm using them. Here comes in Head of Decay. So this is probably going to screw us up. This guy sucks, right? This thing fills turn meter for all the heads and removes debuffs. Honestly, you're going to realize this very quickly here when you're doing your runs. How much of a pain this is. Awful ability. Or then this one, which is the shield and also removes debuffs on a single target. You'll realize how awful this head is. He absolutely sucks. And how much more fun Hydra is when he isn't. I don't even mind Mischief, honestly. At this point, you know, if you said we take out Mischief and put in Decay, I'd say no, give me Mischief. You keep your Decay in the back. I don't want to see him. I don't want to deal with him. Look at that. We put out our HP burn and the absolute son of a gun cleanses it off. I can't believe it. But yeah, let's mention this team quickly. What do we have in here? We just saw Despair. This is Husk. Husk is in for big AoE damage. That's what he is in for. We have Aox then in the next spot. Aox is actually, let me pause it. Turn off auto. I'm just thinking this guy might actually one-shot us right now. So I'm going to cancel out the run. Look, we got 9 million. I'm going to cancel out the run and I'll show you the team. Just because I want to keep experimenting with my keys and my champions this week. We got 9 million. As you can see, that's easily reaching the 6.6 million. Let me show you the team, and this is probably a better way to display it. Ignore those top teams. They're from the previous rotation, first rotation. Let's go down in order, actually. And we'll return to Aox in a second. But Akoth is in there. Akoth is bringing us AoE HP burn on a 3-turn cooldown. He also brings us a bit of a shield to help us stay alive, which is nice. His A1 can place decreased crit rate. I have him built, these are the stats, I have him built pretty fast with good crit rate and tanky stats. And yeah, he's just like tanky and does good damage. Now, he's not actually the best HP burner this week, okay? Why? Because in the starting heads, we've got 2 red heads. So that's 2 chances for him to weak hit. The green head, this is actually kind of bad, and something you can think about. I actually think red affinity is very good this week for you, force affinity, because the green head is the fear head, right? And it means that my red champions are very, very rarely on auto going to target the green head because it's weak affinity for them. They're going to rather hit these other heads instead, which means that on auto, you kind of avoid proccing that true fear too much. On the other hand, poor old Akoth over here is going to love punching this head and true fearing himself. He's going to love it because it's green affinity. So yeah, he's not necessarily the best, but the idea here is he's bringing in the HP burn, which does huge damage and some extra shielding, and he's tanky. Husk is my big damage dealer here, and he is an MVP this week. He is very like Royal Guard. He has enemy max HP nuke on a 4-turn cooldown. Absolutely smacks these heads, slams the damage in. Then he has a single target hit here that hits pretty hard, and then his A1 is just whatever, but he's built fast. He's built with high HP. He's a HP based champion, so he's actually very tanky, and HP ups his damage as well. And then most of his damage comes from crit damage, and that's it, right? He's just built with crit rate, as much crit damage as I could get. War Master, and yeah, just let him go to town. Ugo is coming back this week as well. We couldn't have our team without Ugo, arguably my current favorite epic champion in the game. She's so good. She's very quick. Ugo is bringing in a leech on her A1, which helps us stay alive a little bit. She has an AoE decreased defense and AoE block buffs, and then she also has a little bit of a heal for our team as well. Now, Ugo, again, she is weak affinity. She is weak affinity, but I don't have any other block buff champion in Epic built up to level 60 and geared and everything and skilled and mastered. So she's my only real option, and I do think that block buffs is essential. She does land block buffs consistently on the Head of Wrath, who in my opinion is the most important one. You don't want the Head of Wrath getting buffs because then he'll hit you super hard and rip you apart. She lands that on him pretty consistently, and that is my main goal. Unfortunately, she won't land this very often because she's negative affinity. She'll miss it quite a lot on the Head of Mischief now, whose affinity is changed to red. So that's something to watch out for. Zargala is in here to provide decreased defense. She's basically, because she's force affinity, she's going to give us decreased defense on the stuff that Ugo misses, and she's just in there to do damage as well. So she's also built very quick. I could probably lower her speed, up her defense a bit so she doesn't die as much, maybe up her crit damage, that sort of thing. I just kind of had her lying around where I use her as you know, for faction wars, basically. She's sort of in older gear. But yeah, I just threw her into this team and she works really well. Does good damage and bring in decreased defense on those force affinity champions. And then Aox. Aox is pretty huge. I really like Aox for this run. He is a little bit slow. I'd really want to up his speed. I want to up his speed a lot more, and I think he'd be way better. But Aox is coming in. What does he do? He has a decreased attack, guaranteed AoE on a 3-turn cooldown, and it can also put decreased crit rate as well if they've got less than 50. If they have more than 50% turn meter after he does this move. Which is pretty good. These are two really good debuffs for the Hydra. Then he also has an A2, 3-turn cooldown, which is going to heal everyone, and it does more for every debuff on the target. And again, without the Head of Decay in there cleansing off debuffs, we can build up more debuffs, and this actually ends up being a decent AoE heal for our team. His A1 places poisons. Most of these heads are immune to poison. And then he has a very cool passive. Whenever he is hit, he will increase the duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn, so helping us keep that decreased defense on these heads for longer, helping us keep block buffs on those heads for longer. I think it's very valuable. He's really good for this rotation, and that guaranteed decreased attack is so good. And then Rector Drath, she's very fast, built tanky, tons of resistance as well. She's in here for AoE heal that gives us perfect veil, just helps us avoid some of those fears. She has a revive as well because, again, there's so much damage coming in, and her passive makes you heal loads with those veils as well. So she's just helping everyone stay healthy, keeping them topped up because there's so much damage coming in. And that's the theory of this team. And here are some alternative teams. We got HP burn AoE, although not the best champion for it, bad affinity, but AoE HP burn. Then we've got a big damage dealer, in this case AoE max HP nuker with a good affinity. So yeah, you could replace either of these. These are just in to do damage. You could put in any other damage dealers. I have a couple of suggestions here, as we'll see in a second. We have AoE decreased defense from 2 champions. We have AoE decreased attack from another champion. They were very important. AoE block buffs. And then we have a ton of healing. Healing from Ugo, healing from Aox, healing from Rector Drath. Here are some alternative teams, and you'll see these are built in a very similar way. So, okay, I cheated a little bit. I'm sorry. I put in Drexstar. I know he's got gold border. He's a legendary, but you get him from the bazaar, from Tag Arena. He's a guaranteed legendary. You get him pretty quickly, really. So I'm cheating a bit and putting him in. You could replace him with another HP burner if you wanted to. Maybe I should have, just for the sake of the video, but anyway, he's in. And the idea with Drexstar, he's just applying HP burns. Also really good this week, right? Because the Head of Wrath and the Poison Head, the Head of Blight, they're always hitting an AoE. Always hitting AoE attacks, so he's going to consistently be putting burns on them, which is really nice, right? He's going to consistently burn them with his passive, which is great. Let me actually go through these one by one. So Drexstar, he's in for damage for HP burn. Magnar, as you can see, I don't have these champions all at 60 or anything, but Magnar, he's coming in to do damage. Doesn't hit twice if they have HP burn, but that's okay. He places decreased defense on his A1 consistently if they have HP burn, so that's quite nice. And then he has debuff spread, spreading debuffs onto enemies that have HP burn and increasing the duration of HP burn. So the idea here He also heals whenever anyone takes damage from HP burn. The idea is that he is a HP-based nuker. He does no gear on him right now, right? But he's going to, number one, do good AoE damage and just hit hard with his single target hits as well. He's going to do some nice things if they are HP burned. If they're not HP burned, he'll just hit them really hard. But yeah, so he's in there to just do damage. Again, you could replace these with any damage dealers. I think Stag Knight is great. He's in to do decreased attack, decreased defense, 3-turn cooldown, and he's the right affinity. He also has decreased speed, which I think is very useful. Very, very useful. And he can increase accuracy if you miss a debuff. Phoenix, I think, could be an MVP as well. He's in to do our block buffs, and he's also in to do lots of damage. So Stern Partner, this is the big thing. 4-turn cooldown that has an 80% chance of putting block buffs for 2 turns. Okay? This is going to hit decently hard in AoE. And it's also, he's good affinity. So he's going to land that on most stuff. He won't get it on Head of Wrath, mind you. So that is a downside. But hopefully we'd be okay. Then his A1 just absolutely smacks. If the target has any debuffs, he just does super duper single target damage. And his A3 puts decreased defense and decreased speed. Tanix Hate Flower, I actually think could be pretty good this rotation. Red affinity is really nice, but she has an AoE decreased speed on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. It's not quite booked up yet. Then her A1 is going to heal allies whenever she hits anyone with decreased speed. So put her in like a retaliation set and let her just be shooting off these attacks at random, healing people up. She absorbs some of the damage allies take. So yeah, I actually think Tanix might be okay. She's just there to heal. Any healer would do. And then Melga Steel Girdle, there she is the last one in this suggestion. She's bringing us good healing, shielding, and continuous heal. She has revive on 2 allies, though they come in at low health, which is dangerous. And then she can also, unfortunately she's not booked up here, but she can remove debuffs from allies whenever she attacks with their A1, right? Which will help you deal with some of those poisons and leeches that the other heads are putting up. So that's the idea with this team. We have a HP burner, like HP burner and a damage dealer, right? They're in there. We actually have got pretty good supplemental damage here, bringing in the debuffs, decreased attack, decreased defense, and Stag Knight, block buffs with Phoenix, and then 2 healers, right? To match the sort of 2 and a, or well, let's say 1 healer and 2 half healers over here in this team. And then the final team here, we've got Deacon coming in. Deacon is in there for AoE decreased defense and speed boosting us and some leech. Mordecai coming in for AoE HP burn. Duck coming in, just the same as Stag Knight with AoE decreased defense and decreased attack. Now he has a bad affinity, so we're going to supplement that a little bit. We're going to bring in Umbral Enchantress. She's going to come in with AoE block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance for 3 turns. So she's phenomenal for this. You can maybe even turn off this Undying Evil. Just be like, don't use that. Just always use Immolate. Immolate's going to save our ass. Just block buffs constantly. She's going to be so good this rotation. Mine's only level 40, unfortunately. Ursula the Mourner is going to come in with a revive, increasing defense. Increasing defense is going to up the damage of Duck the Pierced and Umbral Enchantress. And then she has AoE decreased attack, because I think that's so important. And Duck is a bad affinity for this week. So just to guarantee that we get decreased attack. We can miss decreased defense sometimes. We can live with that. But I really want to keep decreased attack out. And then we've got Vraskin as our healer. This team is low on healing. This team is low on healing. So you might need to switch out Ursula for someone else that does good healing. But Vrask is going to come in and he's going to be pumping out tons of healing. Slap him in retaliation set. So he keeps pumping out those heals. And that gives you... oh, yeah, we can save. They are some ideas. There's actually a few other epics you could throw in. I'll mention very quickly that could be good, and I'm going to leave it at that, guys. But once I don't have built up, you could look into some cleansers like Mausoleum Mage, who can remove all debuffs from allies and then heal everyone. That could be really good as well. That could be really, really good. With your Umbral team, you could actually bring in someone. You could bring in, not an epic, but the recent Fusion Legendary, Tataru Rhymehide. He brings in block debuffs buff, which will stop all those poisons going on to you. You could slap him in with an Umbral Enchantress. They'd be a very good combo. The danger with Tataru is that if this block debuffs buff gets stolen and spread on those enemy heads, you're going to be screwed. So you can't have that happen. Umbral Enchantress being void with 100% chance to block buffs and no cleansing decay head means that you could put those two together. This will never get stolen by the heads because they will always have block buffs on them. And the increased defense he gives will not only, this will super help you stay alive, but also up Umbral's damage as well because she is defense based. Then he gives you Perfect Veil to deal with the fear head. You could even, in High Elves, you could even bring in an old MVP, Reliquary Tender, who brings 3-turn cooldown to remove all debuffs and heal your allies. She brings a weak version of decreased attack, and she brings a revive as well. So she brings in some nice things as a rare to help you deal with this head and stuff like that, right? Stuff like that. Cleansers, debuff removers, they could also be very strong. So yeah, hopefully you got some good ideas there. As you saw, this team absolutely smashed this head on normal, this rotation on normal. Absolutely smashed it with this team, no problem. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you've tried any champions, especially ones I didn't mention here that were really good. And yeah, I'm going to try to do a guide on Husk specifically as soon as possible, because I think for this rotation, he is MVP damage dealer, not only in epics, but amongst legendaries as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.